In this video, we'll have a look at the Factry Historian data source in Grafana to fetch some data. To start, let's have a look at how querying time series data works in Grafana in general. Usually we'll be using an influx data source for that, but the same principles apply for the Factry data source. The gray dots in this image represent the raw data, and each of the dotted vertical lines represents 1 hour in the timeline. This way we have 6 hours of data. This is ensured by the where clause, where we filter by everything since the last 6 hours. And to retrieve some values from our data that are not raw data, we'll be grouping them in the windows of 1 hour and selecting for each window the mean value, so the average value. And those are the pink dots that you can see. That will be the eventual data that will be visible on your graph with a query such as this one. Now, the Factry data source takes away a bit of the complexity of the understanding that query by giving you some defaults and some visual selectors to build this query in the background. Important to know is that the Factry data source is read-only, so you will never overwrite any data with it. There is a protection there to only read and never write data. For the rest, you can select multiple options for the queries for each of these, for example, the group by or the aggregation that is used. And there's also some advanced option, which I will show you later. The advantages of using the Factry data source compared to, for example, the influx data source is that with Factry you can select multiple measurements at once. You can search also on the description of measurements, so you have the context of the historian configuration in your query editor. You can retrieve the last point before a certain time, and the units of your measurements that are configured in the historian will also automatically be filled in Grafana. So what we're looking at now is the Explore tab, which you can find here. And we've selected a Factry Historian data source. So once you select a database and a measurement, you'll immediately see that there is data on this preview graph. For now, the average value is selected of every interval. This interval value is a special variable in Grafana, which will calculate a certain interval based on the time range. So if the time range is shorter, then the interval will be shorter. If the time range is longer, for example, a couple of days, then this interval will be longer and you will not see as much data anymore as you saw before. So for now, let's return to this. You have a group by status because all of the data gathered by Factry has a status. And by default, it's filtered on only the data with a good status. Now for the advanced options, let's have a look at those. I can open them by just clicking at them. So by default, you will see that the engineering specifications have been enabled, which means that the units are automatically filled in on your y-axis. You can also add to this legend here the description of the measurement. For now, there doesn't seem to be any, and the name of the database. So those will be added in the tags here. If you would go to zoom in and have kind of an interval where the beginning of the interval is empty, you could fetch the last known point and also fill any initial intervals. for example, with a fill option, fill previous, and that way any intervals are filled in with whatever the previous value was. All right, that's it for the advanced options. Let's go back to the initial situation, and then this should show again what we were seeing before. So that's it. That's the factory data source. Now, as said, you can query multiple measurements at once. So say that I want another one of these added, or maybe something completely different. Then that's all possible. So yeah, you can select as many measurements as you want here, and they will keep being added to the visualization. You don't even have to indicate the database if you want to query certain measurements from multiple databases. You can just remove this one, and then your query will be sent to all the databases known to Factry Historian and see if any of these measurements are in here. The drop down here selects 100 measurements by default. You can also start typing, and that way you can get a certain specific measurements that you're looking for.